Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into a really powerful section of the Bible, Ezekiel chapter 36.
Right, and it just throws you straight into this picture of, well, complete devastation.
Yeah, the land's destroyed, cities are rubble, the people, they're gone, scattered everywhere.
It's speaking right into that historical moment.
Mm.
The exile wasn't theoretical. Temple gone, Jerusalem sacked, people dragged off.
Yeah.
Chapter 36 is dealing with that reality, that trauma.
So the land's empty, yeah, but it's more than just empty, isn't it? It's being like actively kicked while it's down, mocked.
Exactly, and the people are scattered, living with the consequences of, well, what they did.
And this chapter talks to both, right? To the land itself, the hills, the valleys, the ruins, and to the scattered people. It gives this this message that starts with judgment, but then pivots.
A really surprising pivot. It reveals why God says he's going to act, and it's maybe not what you'd expect. And then comes these huge, sweeping promises of restoration.
So that's our goal today. We want to get a real feel for how bad things were for the land and the people. Then dig into why God says he's stepping in.
And then explore just how massive this promised restoration is. It's quite a journey from total ruin to this incredible renewal, and God's own purpose is like right at the heart of it all.
Okay, let's start with that desolate land. The text paints a really grim picture, even quoting the enemies. What were they saying?
Yeah, it captures their gloating. They look at these, historic territories, the ancient heights, and basically say, aha, these are ours now.
Right, our possession.
Yeah,
There's a real sense of triumph in that.
definitely. And it wasn't just taking advantage, it was rubbing it in.
And the text says the land was, what, ravaged and hounded from every side? Became the possession of the rest of the nations.
Yeah, just relentlessly exploited. And worse, it became the object of people's malicious talk and slander. Think about that.
Slandering a place.
Yeah, it shows how low it had sunk. The ruins, the empty towns that got plundered and laughed at, they were symbols of total defeat.
And it specifically mentions Edom enjoying it, right? With glee and malice. So active hostility, not just bystanders.
Precisely. It highlights that deep-seated hatred from neighbors.
Yeah.
But the description gets even weirder, more disturbing.
How so?
There's this specific accusation aimed at the land itself. It says the land devours men and deprives your nation of its children.
Whoa. Devours men. What does that even mean? That sounds terrifying.
Well, people interpret it a few ways, but the core idea seems to be that because of all the war, famine, and just chaos, which were consequences of Israel's sin, the land became a place of death, not life.
So it couldn't sustain its own people.
Right. It was like the land itself turned hostile. It wasn't fertile. It was always being invaded. Life was just fragile. People died young or they fled. It actively seemed to shrink the population.
Okay, so not just empty and plundered, but fundamentally dangerous. Almost cursed. Grimm doesn't quite cover it.
Yeah.
That's the land. What about the people who should have been living there? Why weren't they? What happened?
Well, their situation was a direct result of what they did while they were living there. The text is really blunt about it. It says they defiled it by their conduct and their actions.
And it uses that really strong metaphor.
Oh. Yeah, the comparison to a woman's monthly uncleanness.
Yeah.
In their culture, that meant being ritually impure, separate, unable to approach God or be fully part of the community.
So applying that to their actions, it's saying their behavior was deeply offensive, made them incompatible with the holy God.
Exactly. It created this profound separation.
And what specific actions led to that kind of defilement?
The text points to two main things: shedding innocent blood, so violence, injustice, murder, and filling the land with idols. These weren't small things. They were fundamental violations of their covenant with God.
Breaking the core agreement.
Right. The responsibility to him and to the land he gave them.
And that's what brought on God's wrath.
That's how the text frames it, yes. He poured out his wrath because of that defilement. And the result, removal, exile. I dispersed them among the nations, scattered them, judged them according to their conduct.
So the exile wasn't just random bad luck. It's presented as a direct consequence, a judgment.
A just judgment for their rebellion and impurity, yeah.
But this scattering, it had wider implications, didn't it? The text says wherever they went, they profaned God's holy name. How did their exile do that?
Yeah, this is like the pivot point of the whole chapter. Think about it. Here are God's supposed chosen people, defeated, scattered, powerless refugees.
Right.
So the other nations look at them and think, huh, these are the people of Yahweh, and this is what happened to them. They had to leave his land.
So it made God look bad, like he couldn't protect his own people or wasn't faithful.
Exactly. It cast doubt on his power. his character, his faithfulness. Israel's humiliation became God's public relations problem, you could almost say. Their shame reflected onto his reputation, his name.
So profaning his name wasn't just about, like, swearing. It was their very existence as defeated exiles that diminished his standing in the world's eyes.
Precisely. Their condition caused his holy character to be questioned.
Okay, and that brings us to the really surprising part. God's reason for stepping in. You'd think, given how badly they messed up, that restoration would depend on them changing first, right? Repenting.
That would be the logical human way, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But no, God says super clearly, "It is not for your sake, O house of Israel, that I'm going to do these things, but for the sake of my holy name, which you have profaned among the nations where you have gone."
Wow, it is not for your sake. That's blunt. It just removes any idea that they earned this or deserved it.
Absolutely. And you have to grasp this to understand everything that follows. The restoration isn't a reward. It's not based on their past faithfulness. They didn't have any.
And it's not even based on them promising to do better now.
No, the repentance actually comes after God acts, as we'll see. The whole thing is driven by God's commitment to his own glory, his reputation. His name got dragged through the mud because of their sin and exile, and he has to act to fix that, to show the world who he really is.
So rescuing Israel is almost a side effect. The main goal is demonstrating his holiness and power to everyone else.
That's the emphasis, yes. "I will show the holiness of my great name. Then the nations will know that I am the Lord, when I show myself holy through you before their eyes." Israel becomes the stage, the object lesson, for God showing his true character to the world.
He has to correct the narrative about himself.
Right. He acts out of, the text says, burning zeal and jealous wrath, but now it's primarily for his name and against the nations who are mocking him in Israel.
That changes everything. It's not about them, it's about him. Okay, so with that as the motivation, what does this restoration actually look like? First, for the land, how does it change?
It's a total reversal, complete turnaround. The cursed land becomes blessed again. It'll produce branches and fruit for Israel.
So, fertile again.
Yeah, and the work starts again. It'll be plowed and sown. Activity returns.
And the ruined cities.
The towns will be inhabited and the ruins rebuilt. And not just rebuilt, but filled. God promises this huge increase in population, people and animals. They'll be fruitful and become numerous.
Wow. Repopulation on a massive scale. And it says it'll be even better than before. Prosper more than before.
Yes, an elevated state. Better than the good old days even. And remember that creepy line about the land devouring men?
Yeah.
God says, that's over. You will no longer devour men or make your nation childless. The land becomes life-giving again. Safe.
And the nations stop mocking it. That humiliation is removed too.
Completely. And this visible transformation, this obvious turnaround, that's what serves God's main purpose. The nations will see it. They'll look at this wasteland, suddenly blooming like the Garden of Eden.
Paradise regained almost.
Right. They'll see the ruined cities rebuilt, fortified, full of people. And the text makes it clear. They will draw the conclusion. Then the nations around you will know that I, the Lord, have rebuilt what was destroyed. I, the Lord, has spoken, and I will do it.
That I will do it, just sheer divine power and certainty. Okay, so that's the land. But the people need more than just a new place to live, right? The problem was internal.
Exactly. It goes way deeper than geography. The physical return is step one, yeah. I will take you out, gather you, bring you back into your own land. But just putting the same people back in the same place doesn't fix the root cause of the exile, their sinfulness, their defilement.
So the restoration has to tackle that head on. How?
This is where you get some of the most incredible promises.
Yeah.
God says, I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities and from all your idols.
And sprinkle clean water like a purification ritual.
Exactly. It signifies a complete divine cleansing, washing away all that ingrained moral and ritual impurity that separated them from him.
But it's even more radical than just cleaning up the past, isn't it? There's that promise about changing them on the inside.
Yes, this is huge. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh.
Heart of stone, heart of flesh. What's the difference?
Well, in the Bible, the heart is like the control center, your mind, your will, your character. A heart of stone is hard, stubborn, cold towards God, unable to obey, unresponsive. A heart of flesh is alive, soft, responsive, capable of feeling, wanting, and actually doing what God wants.
So it's a fundamental change in their nature, an inner transplant almost.
That's a good way to put it. changing them from the inside out.
Mhm.
And this new heart makes something possible that wasn't before.
Which is?
Real obedience. Because God doesn't just give a new heart, he adds his presence. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws.
So it's not just having the ability to obey, but the desire and the power coming from God's Spirit within them.
Exactly. Obedience stops being this external demand on a rebellious heart and starts flowing naturally from a transformed heart, empowered by God himself. He works in them, prompting them, enabling them.
And this whole package deal, cleansing, new heart, indwelling spirit, this is what restores the actual relationship.
Yes, you will live in the land. You will be my people, and I will be your God. The covenant is back on, but on a totally new footing. Built on God's grace, his transformation, his presence. Now they can truly live as his people in his land.
And just like the land gets practical blessings, the people do too.
Absolutely. Being safe from uncleanness affects everything. Then grain plentiful, no famine, a direct reversal of the devouring land. More fruit, more crops, so they will no longer suffer disgrace among the nations because of famine, taking away that source of shame.
And more people too, right? Like the land being repopulated.
Yeah, God says he'll yield to the plea of Israel, interesting phrase, and make their people as numerous as sheep, filling up those rebuilt cities.
So it's just total restoration. Land, people, spiritually, physically, numerically, relationally, everything.
A completely comprehensive turnaround from the depths of judgment to this incredible future.
And all along, the engine driving it is God's concern for his own holy name, not their merit.
That's the constant refrain. It wasn't Israel sorting themselves out.
Yeah.
It was God acting because his reputation was on the line. His character needed vindication before the nations.
So that transformation from a devouring land and stony-hearted people to like Eden and people with hearts of flesh who actually want to follow God, it's not their achievement. It's a miracle performed by God for God's reasons.
Precisely. And the impact on the nations is key. God's judgment and then his even more stunning restoration of Israel serves as this global demonstration so that they will know that I am the Lord. Israel's story becomes the world's classroom about who God is.
The sheer scope of what's promised here is just staggering. Changing the land, changing demographics, changing the inner core of human beings.
And the text just hammers home God's initiative. I will, I will, I will. It's all his work, his plan, his power for his purpose.
Okay, that leaves us with a final thought, something for you, our listeners, to really chew on. This chapter emphasizes God's absolute initiative. Restoration comes purely for his sake, his name, not because of human effort or worthiness. So what does that mean for how we think about identity and purpose? If renewal, maybe even in our own lives, comes not from us earning it, but solely from God for his own greater purpose.
And then there's this tension. After receiving this total unearned restoration, the text says the people will remember their past sins, their failures, and they will loathe themselves for it. They'll feel shame. How does that deep awareness of past failure and that resulting shame fit together with receiving such complete, unmerited grace and transformation? How do divine grace and human responsibility hold together in that picture? It's something profound the text leaves us to grapple with.